can start.
All right. Good morning, everybody. This is our meeting of October 11th at 9 o'clock. I'd like to start off with a statement pursuant to section 20 of chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021 and in line with social distancing guidelines followed during the COVID-19 pandemic. All Port Council members are participating remotely in today's meeting because their physical attendance today would be unreasonably difficult. All Port Council members are participating in the meeting by the Zoom video conferencing app, and all members will be clearly audible to each other. As a result of the members' remote participation in this meeting, any and all votes taken by the members today shall be by roll call vote. In addition, I would also like to inform everyone that Sean Driscoll, the authority's communications director, is making an audio and video recording of today's meeting. Is there anyone else making an audio recording of today's meeting? If so, please identify yourself by pressing your raise your hand icon, or if you're joining by phone, press *9 on your keypad. And when you are recognized, please state your name for the record. Thank you.
Rich.
Hi, Rich from the Envy Times.
Morning, Rich.
Good morning, Rich.
That's all
All
I
right.
see.
Ready to go, Sean?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, the first order of business is the minutes from our last meeting on September 13th. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, can I get a roll call vote? We'll start with Bud this morning.
Aye.
All right, Rob.
I'm going to abstain. I wasn't there. It
Joe.
looked like a fascinating meeting, though.
Joe, yes.
All right, Matt
Aye.
and Mark.
Aye.
And Cahill, aye. All right, moving down the agenda, management reports. We're going to start with updates on current projects. Bob, do you want to take over there?
Yeah, before we start, just from the bond here, Sean Driscoll will be coming up here in a moment to give the update on the website. Terrence Keneally, General Counsel, Mark Rosum, Treasurer, Allison Fletcher, Director of Shoreside, Angela Campbell, Reservation Manager, and Bill Cloutier, Project Manager, are in the house with us, so to speak.
Great, thank you.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Just a brief update on the website redesign project. The 80K design team is continuing to support the tech team as they work to bring the designs into development. Content strategists have focused on revisions to any pages that were previously submitted and reviewed by our team. Also working on content for multiple interior pages, including lost and found, safety, security, changing and canceling reservations, and things to do for boat islands. Following some testing, the design team is also working on modifications to a few aspects of the mobile design, including the prominence of the book ferry button, streamlining the confirmation flow, and making the add a waitlist option on the trip selection page easier to find. That was all in response to feedback from our test group. The front end technology team worked on the governance page, the account pages, the ability to rename reservations, pending cancellation icons, and the purchase reload and checking of gift cards, and a lot of other items in that regard. The back end team was focusing on booking dates, local weather, and certain bug fixes. The launch date has officially been moved to March of 23 to account for delays in securing the content management system and switching the credit card processing company. And we have been continuing our public engagement through the biweekly e-news and website updates at steamshipauthority.com/webproject. So happy to take any questions.
Any questions from the group?
I noticed there was you had a question about understanding where we were spend wise against the budget last time, John, and wondering, Sean, if there's an answer to that.
I emailed that directly to John, so I apologize. I didn't send it to the entire group, but the last sprint report we had, we were 82% of the way through the budget, approximately.
So what does that leave money-wise?
I'm not gonna try to do math in my head, but I'll leave that to. How much? Mr. Davison tells me it's about 400,000 is my math in the head.
Okay,
So the obvious question is that enough to get to the finish line?
Well, the payments are all milestone payments. So it's not a time and materials basis.
Okay.
We are talking with ADK about how the particulars of extending the development time. So that, is a discussion that's ongoing, but all the payments so far have been milestone payments, not time and materials. So that's the way the contract was structured. That's not an issue.
Sean, I have two questions. One is, have we contacted those alpha users that we sent over to you?
Yes, those are the people who we did testing with, who suggested the modifications that I mentioned to the mobile design. So we've done that, and that
Okay.
feedback is leading to some changes.
All right. And then my second question, I just want to inform the Port Council members, Joe Solito, myself, and Jim Malkin had requested a meeting with Sean, Bob, and ADK to get a hands-on with this website, to actually work with the functionality, see how it flows, do some input through the screens. And Sean, have you been able to set up a date for that?
No, I will work on that and get that to you this week.
Okay. All right. Look forward to that meeting. Any other questions for Sean? All right, seeing none, let's go on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
So next one is the Woods Hole Terminal site work. So Bill will be coming up here, but the progress right now, Lawrence Lynch is on site. They've been so for about 2 weeks now.
Going on 3 or 4 weeks.
So they moved over, they're working over adjacent to the freight shed right now, rebuilding a retaining wall and the fence along the property line. The hazardous material trailer had been emptied, moved, relocated, so that way we could use that going forward. What else do we have?
They have started on the first section of raising the elevation of the land right near the check-in booth. They have some utilities they have to move. We didn't anticipate, but it's ongoing. That's about it. A lot of the retaining wall work, and there's a water line work that we have to get done before we move into section 5B, which would be the next section for raising the elevation. So that work is they're working on that currently. Any questions?
I don't see any. I think that was good.
I think Bill's team, time and a lot of the design team have been working on the finalizing the package that we need to get out for the building construction. So for the terminal design and this pre-qualification packages that need to go out. So
Thank you, Bill.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead.
yeah, can I just ask you one quick question?
Yes, sir.
Not to meddle into the Woods Hole stuff too much, Bob, or I guess, Bill. Back to the whole energy conduit stuff coming from that other building we talked about, quite a while back. Is there gonna be multiple energy sources set up for this building? In other words, let's just say whatever we're doing, has issues and we need to have natural gas brought in at some point. Is there natural gas down there in a pipeline or in a pressure main or down to the terminal area?
Yes, right now we're running the temporary terminals on natural gas, and in the future, the emergency generator will be a natural gas, so we do have gas availability on the site.
Okay, so perfect. So I just want to make sure that we're not like, gone full California on this project. So that's good. That just in case, future, we're not digging up the parking lot and running new stuff that's like, should have already been done. So, thank
No, we're trying
you.
to do design for that,
Yeah.
we've got multiple conduits, we've got oversized conduits, so that.
Yeah.
If we have to pull lines, we're not.
That, an oversized conduit is a huge positive, especially when you want to run PEX, insulated PEX, stuff like that. You can shove it in there and run it across from wherever this is coming from. So I'm just thinking about the future, that's what we're supposed to do, right? So sometimes the future goes backwards. So it'd be good if we just cover all our bases while we got the place blown up like that.
We're doing our best.
Thank you.
So I think in terms of the project, it still is expected to be a net zero energy project. But that'll still mean that we'll still be connected to the, utilities. There'll be times where we'll be actually putting power into the grid. There'll be times where we'll be borrowing power from the grid, but overall, it ends up being a net zero energy project. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, should we go on to dry dock?
Yeah, and Sean will bring up a presentation. I'm doing that. All right, so the container was at Thames Shipyard and Repair in London, Connecticut. Next. I think previously you've seen this, the stern view of the vessel. Next. And then there's steel renewal that had to be done both in the bow area and underneath the engine room. So that's I believe at the last Port Council meeting, we showed you this drawing, this illustration, and then next. That same area after it's already been coated and ready to be undocked. Next. Inside the keel plate renewal, some of the work that was being done, and again, this was illustrated at the last Port Council meeting. And then next. Underneath the engine room, the cooler is located there. It's already been reinstalled and everything's been coated. And next. And then some of the concrete that had to be reinstalled, as you may recall, in order to get to those frames that need to be replaced, they had to chisel out the concrete that was there to the point where they were able to attach to good material. Then once that work was done, the concrete needed to be put back in for ballast. And next. From the wheelhouse looking down, just showing some of the topside coatings that had been done. Next. As part of the project, we did install a fire detection system on board the vessel, which is similar to the ones we've been doing on all of our vessels. Next. So the highlights again for this was the structural steel renewal. We did have a fuel oil purifier being installed in the fire detection. And then next. So the budget for the shipyard started off at $1.1 million. There was $46,000 in credits. There was $512,000 in change orders. Most of that dealt with the steel replacement of $461,000. So we end up at just under $3.8 million for the shipyard repair. The vessel itself was launched on September 19th. The vessel itself was launched on the 19th and returned to our Fairhaven facility on the 23rd. We still have some work being done, including on the davit. And at this point, the Sankaty will remain on the schedule through the end of the schedule, which is on October 19th. But we anticipate having the container ready as a standby vessel in the interim. So with that, any questions? Okay. Not hearing any.
Yep,
Next, I'll have Bill come up again on this one. So one of the issues we've been dealing with is over on the Nantucket. Those of you to update everyone, our facility over in Nantucket, besides being used for our services, is used quite often for barge unloading. There's no other facility on the island for barge unloading. And whether it's being brought over aggregate, modular homes, other equipment, they all use the face of our dock. May recall a little over a year ago, the reports were that the barges themselves were grounding, or the tugs with the barges were grounding off the face of the dock. Our captains started to become concerned that is spreading out farther away from the dock as well. So we did do an emergency dredge this past fall to smooth out some of the humps that were in that area, remove some material. But we've been working since then on a full dredge project for the Nantucket terminal. So in your packet, then, you know, trying to bring up the slides. Yeah, so he'll be bringing up the slide showing that off the face of the dock, the areas that need to be dredged. We've been working with, we've gotten permits from the Nantucket Conservation Commission. We're hopeful that the permit from the Corps of Engineers will be coming soon. The Chapter 91 license has been approved.
It's not approved, but it's under comment, it's in a review comment review cycle, should be, hopefully we'll have it by the first week in November.
Okay, so this is the facility, and it shows the areas where dredging needs to be performed. So immediately off the face of the dock, you'll see is most of it. There is some areas on the south side as well that need to be taken care of. That slip is used primarily for the high-speed service. So, but we do need to address that issue. We have another project over there where we'll be replacing the transfer bridges. They're a little rough at the moment. And so when we do that, all traffic will be going into the south slip for a period of time, and then all traffic will be going into the north slip at a period of time. So in conjunction with this, we're hopeful to be doing some bulkhead rehabilitation over there as well. There have been some timbers that have been placed on the face of that dock to keep the barges off the bulkhead. One by one, those seem to have been damaged, removed to the point they're not there anymore. So we anticipate doing that as well. So we're hopeful that we'll be getting these remaining permits in time to award a contract to get this done. prior to, the winter season when there's a dredging restriction because of the winter flounder, so.
So the hope is, we're going out to, we're out to bid, and we'll hopefully open bids, this week, in anticipation of getting these permits, but, we couldn't wait. The permit cycle seems to be getting longer and longer every year, so, we couldn't wait to do the bids and still be on time to get the dredging done before the winter flounder, time of year restriction is in place.
Matt, do you have any concerns?
No, it's a TMI kind of a topic, so it's best to just leave it. You know, the good news is that we have a good relationship with the barge, the most, you know, used barge operator now, and working with us and not, you know, creating a friction. So that's good for us. And hopefully this gets done and can be done for, you know, I don't know, 5 years, 8, I don't know what, however long it lasts.
Well, Matt, just for your information, this is the first time we've done any maintenance dredging there since the construction of the building, so,
You sure about that?
yeah, we did.
It was something like 15 years ago or something. I thought we did something, but
Not that I can recall, we don't have it recorded, the only dredging we did was when we got our chapter 91 to expand the.
maintenance.
Right,
15 years ago was the bulkhead where we had to, repair the bulkhead where, the rails had, rusted out and it blew out,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah,
Mr. Chair, I see Shane Corey in the audience with his hand raised, so Mr. Corey is one of the frequent barge operators at that facility. I don't know whether you want to take any comments from him or not at this time.
I'll leave that up to you, Bob.
hopefully.
Well, Shane?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we
Good morning,
can.
Shane.
Good morning. Thanks for hearing. Just had a question about the addendum number 1 to the dredge contract, question number 3. Which I think is stating that you're going to give uninterrupted access to the dredge contractor during the course of the project. And what allowances or contingencies you're going to make for normal barge offloads during that time?
Yep, so in order to make this as quick as possible, a project as possible, we do anticipate giving them full access to that area that needs to be dredged. They're obviously going to have a barge with a crane and a material barge as well. So there's been some discussion as to whether even as we're looking at this, we're even anticipating there'll be times where the south slip may not be available for use, and we'll have to coordinate our own service as well as Sea Streak service there as well. So again, we don't anticipate it to be the full time, but there will be a period of time, and we'll be working with all the operators in the lane to once we're able to identify when those periods will be. So.
Okay, so are you saying there's going to be periods of time where you're going to allow the regular operations to?
There will be some times where we won't be able to, we won't have the space to be able to do it, and there'll be other times where we will be able to, but at this point, until the contract is awarded and we talk with whoever the proponent is, we won't know exactly when those time periods will be.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, go ahead, Nat.
Bob, I didn't realize that was gonna be that stringent. I figured this was gonna come in after the fast boat schedule changes. I just assumed that in my mind.
Yeah.
Um,
No, So we need to get this, we need to get it done prior to January with the flounder.
The flounder thing.
Yeah.
So, yikes, we have modulars. I mean, that dock is used every day for something. Whether it's modulars, whether it's gravel, or, you know, whatever else is coming on. What I think you better have something put on the agenda for the select board meeting at some point for night work, you know, anticipate some kind of night operation of some sort, like we're doing with the sewer stuff occasionally. Because I mean, that's Shane's right, like that's a big deal. To be able to, you can't just say we're not gonna have a dock for a week. I don't even think a week could work. Or some sort of arrangement. I just don't know what else we can do. So this is gonna be complicated.
Bill,
If that's-
Bill or Bob, can I ask a question to help Nat along with? What kind of disruption are we talking about? Can you forecast what it might look like? Once a week throughout the project?
No, it's, John, it's continuous. Once we bring a crane barge in and a material barge in, you know, mobilizing it and not mobile, it's the only efficient way to get it done is to get there, get in and get it done. And we anticipate the dredging, it's only 4,700 yards. It's probably 2.5 weeks worth of work, okay, but we're gonna be putting the material in a barge, dewatering it, and then offloading it on site. And actually, Shane's company is great, is gonna take it away for us, which is been very helpful for upland disposal. But
So for a 2.5 week period, will there be any access to the dock?
probably not.
Yeah.
What's
Even
that?
at night, probably not, but we'll have to be, whoever ends up getting the contract, because we'll have to find out how they're planning to do this, and whether they're gonna need to secure the barge up against, up against the
Right.
dock, whether they'll spud it out in the harbor somewhere, so.
Yeah, that's right. They're gonna be able to
Right,
just.
thank you.
That's right, Bob. Okay. Wow.
Just from Toscana's point of view, I mean, historically, we do 1 to 2 barges of aggregate a year. You know, at that time of year. I know there's other companies here who also bring in aggregate, and obviously there's the modulars too. Is there any way to write something into the contract to
The issue ends up being is that, by only providing limited access to the dredge operations, the cost of this project is gonna go up astronomically. For it, so I think as Bill pointed out, it's gonna be more efficient for everyone to give them unfettered access, let the project get over with, and then we'll, So in regards to that, I know that there has been some talk about whether we're aware that there's a barge, obviously there's a barge that is capable of matching up against our transfer bridge, so some of the material might be able to be transported in that manner, but again, until we get proposals in and we actually get the licenses, a lot of this is premature in terms of knowing exactly how much time and space is going to be necessary.
Shane or Nat, do you have any more questions for Bob or Bill?
Oh.
All right, Shane, thank you very much for participating.
Thank you.
And I think we're moving on to the next topic.
Great, thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay. So next item we have is, Angela will come up. We just wanted to present the 2023 reservation timeline. And this is for informational purposes, so it's not necessary to vote, but So what we're looking at, we're the Head Start program, which is by mail and internet only. We're looking to conduct that from January 10th, 2023 through January 16th, 2023. So that's basically just shifting it by a day from a year ago. The general opening, which would be internet only, for the Nantucket route, will start on January 17th and run through the 23rd. So I believe the 17th is a Tuesday, correct?
Yes.
The following week, the Vineyard general opening would occur, the January 24th through January 30th. Then we'd have a telephone opening starting on January 31st. For next summer's summer reservations. The Head Start transfer deadline would be May 15th, 2023, or 30 days prior to the reservation, whichever comes first. So during the opening, the general internet openings, we are going to have extended office hours in the reservation bureau from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. on those during those time periods. We've included in your packet when the fall and winter and spring openings will be as well. But I'll let Angela talk about the Head Start program and the qualifications for that.
So the Head Start program is available to customers that are active participants in the 2023 Islander Preferred or Islander Preferred Excursion programs. The participants are allowed to make up to 5 qualifying reservations. Of those 5, 3 can be made into a transferable status. The remaining 2 can be made directly into the name of themselves or another customer that they have or a friend. It can be one way or round trip. The transferable reservations, 3 of those 5 that are transferable can be made designated, and then a slip will be sent to the customers. They will then be able to denote on the slip as to who they want to transfer to. Again, it needs to be returned to us prior to 30 days of travel or prior to the May 15th deadline. The profile qualifications, the Islander Preferred Excursion or Islander Preferred profiles are valid for 2 years. For 2023, we will send renewal applications to all persons profiled whose profile ends in an even number. These will expire at the end of 2022. Applications submitted after January 1st, 2023 will also have a 2-year expiration date. It will just end at the 2-year mark in the general. Profile notifications will include the expiration date, so that all the customers are aware of when their profile does expire. Applications will be available on the website under our policies, forms, and information, as well as an email that will be generated. The excursion program allows the participant into the Head Start program and the ability to purchase preferred reservations with excursion fares. The program currently has approximately about 13,625 participants in the excursion program. Approximately 8,944 or 65% of those participants are from Martha's Vineyard, and the remaining 4,449 or 33% are from Nantucket, and there is a small 2%, which is 232, that are listed with off-island addresses to participate in this program. The requirements for the excursion program is the resident needs to be on the town street list. They need to provide a copy of a valid Massachusetts ID with an island address. And they need to provide a copy of a valid Massachusetts vehicle car registration with, again, an island address. Now, if it's a leased car, we do have the ability to make the adjustments for those as well. Islander Preferred program allows participants in the Head Start program to the ability to purchase the preferred reservation at a full fare rate. So you still get access to the preferred space, just not the discounted rate. The program for the preferred currently has about 2,414 participants. To participate, 2 of the following types of proof must be submitted in the name of the individuals qualifying. So it'd be a telephone bill, water bill, a cable or satellite, electric bill, or a similar utility bill for the house. They also need to provide a copy of a valid vehicle registration. Regardless of where the car is registered, you just need to know which vehicle will be on the profile to accept the preferred status. All vehicle reservations are non-transferable except where noted in our Head Start program.
All right, so as part of this, we'll be sending out emails to anyone whose profile that ends with the number this year, reminding them that they have to renew their profiles, and we'll be putting this information out on the website as well, and social media to let people know that they need to be updating their account information in order to be receiving the excursion of the preferred rates. So, and again, this is we'll be coming back at next month's meeting with our recommendation regarding reservation only days. And again, this is for information purposes, but if there's anything that anyone feels we've missed, please let us know.
Any questions, guys? I have a question. I'm just curious, how does one who lives off island get an excursion rate?
In order to get the excursion rate, again, you have to supply a Massachusetts issued ID with an island address and a vehicle registration that is, again, registered in Massachusetts with an island address, as well as be on your town street list. That does not mean that they couldn't have a house off island somewhere, but in order to qualify for the excursion program, you are required to show those documents, or you're not allowed into the program. Because it is,
All right.
Proof of residency that we're looking for.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
this is the stuff that I just, kind of cringe, like, to even talk about, but I do want to just make a sort of a point for staff to kind of like, when the street list came up, that was Catherine Flanagan Stover and Steve back in the day came up with that idea. And I'm not saying that is run its useful course. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is I have a little joke about what it means to be a local, right? And there are 3 ways to be a local on Nantucket, and there are 3 different provisions, but none of them all match. One of them is what Angela's talking about, having the street list, but another one is to be a voter. And to be a voter here, you don't have to live here year round. You have to have 2 properties, one in Mass, and they both have to be in Mass. It's where you file your taxes from. And then you have the residential tax rate exemption, which has its own criteria. So I feel strongly that, and this is why I've talked to you guys about like a different rate for people that have, like, say, a property here but don't live here year round, but they are here, let's just hypothetically say 6-7 months a year. I think what Angela is bringing up is a good sort of explanation in the sense of how you become an excursion. How do you get to be an excursion holder versus other ways that you have access, whether you vote here or but you don't live here, and et cetera. So I think there's going to have to be some adjustments to sort of align some of these things up, because things have changed. You have people with cars registered on the island that stay here. You have people staying here for 9 months a year. They're essentially residents, but they leave in the winter. And we've had tons of people doing that years ago that would, go to Florida for the winter. Well, now we have that, but in a sort of a different era. I'm trying to come up with a way to explain it, but it isn't exactly the same as it used to be in the past.
So Nat, if I can ask you, What are you asking of Angela?
I'm not, I guess what I'm saying is streamlining the process instead of making it more complicated for ticket sellers and people that don't know everything about it, of how to become a excursion qualification when they thought they couldn't. You know what I mean? I kind of see that as something that I'm sure there's a lot of people here that may not think that they can get the excursion that can, and vice versa. So I'm just saying, I would keep that on the radar for modification in the future. That's all. I'm not questioning what we're doing. I'm just saying this is a sort of a moving target type situation. I mean, you got 90% of the property taxes paid by people that don't live year round, but you also have we're like the same thing with the steamship. Most of our money is coming from people that don't qualify for these programs. So thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, and thank you, Angela.
All right, this Terrence is coming up. Next item is a request from 41 North Offshore for amendment to their license to provide freight transportation services from New Bedford to Nantucket. This was apologize for the lateness of this one. There was a late request from 41 North for the remainder of the year, and Terrence, why don't you quickly go through it?
Hi, good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Just real quickly, so back in April, as people might recall, just about so this license agreement arose out of the UPS request to bring their trucks over on a barge, and Jonah and folks at 41 North received the license from the board, and since that time, it's gone very well. They're working well with Elaine at the terminal. It seems to be going well. They're filling in gaps where folks aren't able to either get space with us, or they need to bring multiple vehicles over. It hasn't morphed, if you will, into a regularly scheduled service. It's more of an on-demand type of service. They do provide scheduled service on Thursdays. Recently, as you see in your packet, Jonah sent over a letter asking us to extend the license from its expiration date on October 19th to the end of the year. And looking at it and discussing it in here with the staff, it doesn't appear to be any real issues. I know he has another 1 or 2 trips booked after the 19th that he wants to make sure that he can get in. And again, it's something that's been working fairly well with the staff and over at the terminal in particularly. So we don't see any real issue with it. It's essentially just an extension of time on something that the board approved back in April. And we have been talking with them about the issues that we were talking about earlier about the terminal closing and the potential for them bringing other materials over the transfer bridge if we can accommodate that. So it's something that's really a service that could that helps the island. So again, that's what we're here to do. So that's it. So we're looking for some kind of review and from the members today, and a recommendation to the board as to whether we should extend this license agreement.
Was this in our packet?
Yeah, it was a late addition to the packet. Apologize for that. Again, this didn't come to us until last week, and that originally it was it wanted an extension through next year, and we requested that they revise their request to be just for this season, And we'll have to address next season at a later point. We need to advertise it and everything else for. But as an extension for this year, I thought we could bring it forward.
And what is North 41 carrying?
So they've been bringing on average about 2 to 3 trucks in each direction over. My understanding is that a lot of it has had to do with events that have been occurring on the island. Wedding parties and the like, where they're bringing over, whether it's bands, tents, things like that. Or there have been a couple common carrier transits included in that. But I don't think there was any consistent usage of it by common carriers.
Is there any reason why we would not extend this contract?
Well, through the end of the year, the issue is gonna be is the availability of the slips during the dredge project, as we previously discussed, so.
And that's why we have it in there.
John?
They have to continue to work cooperatively with the terminal and Jonah and his folks understand that.
Joe, did you
John?
want to say something? Go ahead.
Yeah, was this done by letter to the?
I'm sorry,
to the
what?
Steamship? Was this done by a letter to the steamship?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Request.
Yes,
Is there
sir.
any way you could put that up on the screen so we could just take a look at what the letter says? I don't know.
Yeah, that's John.
It's in your package, Joe.
They said, I didn't see it in.
Page
maybe that's me, I
35.
just didn't see it, I'm sorry.
Here it is. Yeah.
Is the letter in the packet?
Page 35, Joe.
Okay, thank you, I'm sorry.
While we're looking at that, Terry, so your recommendation is to go ahead and approve this extension, I would assume, right?
Sure, that's primarily, it's really conditioned and on the relationship that 41 North has with Elaine over there as the terminal manager, and she, I continue to ask her how it's going, and I'm told that it's going well, so
Okay.
we're working very, very well together, so.
The other element, as I mentioned, is they were looking for an extension through next year as well, and that's going to come as a separate letter now. And we'll be, at that point, we'll advertise it and we'll be seeking public comment regarding it, and also feedback from the town as to the benefits of that service.
And Bob and Terry, do you want to vote from us today on this issue?
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Anyone,
So-
you guys, well, go ahead, Nat.
Just to, to kind of just sort of make this into something simpler than it looks, okay? Because it is simpler than it looks. As we discussed last spring, we've never really had I guess I would say a consistent, stable relationship with a barge operator that sort of like a licensing agreement with like Highline or Pied Piper or whoever, right? Things have sort of shuttled around, Victor's barge, when he first came in, he set it up to fit the slip, but then he got out of that part of the business because it was too much for him, and then other, whether it was Toscan or whether it's somebody else, get more involved. It's just migrated. It's evolved over time into something that's we didn't have modular homes in the 80s and the 90s like we do now. I mean, modulars are like it's constant. It's not going away. It's gonna get to be more. And to not to go too far into the future, but it is kind of around the corner. Nantucket Terminal is 1983. has a lot of, work that needs to be done. And barging will be part of that future, as far as like making a, we didn't even have trucks bringing gasoline to Nantucket when that terminal was done. That was 20 years later. So 15, right? So we're sort of like in the past and in the present at the same time. And I think that this gentleman with this company is the right person for Nantucket. He understands the nuances, has good relationships. And it isn't removing business from the steamship. Some of the stuff that Bob mentioned, there's oddball stuff that comes here that doesn't work properly on our vessels or can't get on one direction. They may be going back on our boat, or they may be coming over on ours and back on the barge, stuff like that. My hope down the road is modules will be able to drive off a barge without having to be transferred onto the dock. I think that will happen and down the road when the terminal is redone. But for now, this is what we need to keep commerce moving back and forth without major conflicts. That's the
Bob,
best
you want to make a motion?
way that's the best way I can explain it. If Bob's got his hand up, I hope I didn't say the wrong thing.
Go ahead, Bob.
Actually, I just had two things. First, Louisa Hostetter with the Vindy Gazette is notified Sean that she is recording the meeting as well.
right.
And I do see Jonah Mikatowicz in the audience, so I don't know whether he had anything that he'd like to add to the discussion before any vote took place, or.
Well, if he does, has he raised his hand?
He has raised his
There
hand.
it is.
Let's bring him over.
Morning, Jonah. Good morning, Jonah.
Good morning, John.
Good morning, Council. Good morning, Bob. Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Great, thank you. So I appreciate your all's consideration of our request. So the service we got going in mid-June. Our initial the initial runs that we made were a mix of event companies catering to, not necessarily catering, but servicing weddings. We had a handful of common carriers. And after that initial rush there in kind of early June, the service transitioned into more of a dedicated, we had a handful of construction companies on island projects. And from that point through currently, it's really been a service driven by customers who have a large volume of pieces that they need to transport to the island, and they need to get them all there on a specific day or as a group. It's still a work in progress, but this extension, we'd like to hopefully continue it through the end of the year. And then as Bob and Terry mentioned, come back for a further discussion and look at renewing it for another year. But for right now, we're just trying to kind of bridge through the end of the year. And we appreciate, Nat, your comments. We do see what's going on in Nantucket and how Nantucket has evolved. We see the barge transportation being a kind of an integral part of the transportation network to Nantucket.
All right. Do we have any questions for John? Anyone else? All right. Thank you, John. Would the representative or council member from Nantucket like to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the extension of the licensing for North 41 or 41 North.
All right.
Whatever.
Need a second.
I'll second.
All right. Thanks, Joe. Any further discussion? All right. Seeing none, how about a roll call vote? Mr. Lowell.
Aye.
All right. Bud.
Aye.
Joe Solito.
Aye, but for some reason, my page 34 starts with the business summary. So that's why I asked if the letter could be put up on the screen.
All right. And then Rob
Aye.
and Mark.
Yes, but for the sake of consistency, if nothing else, I'd like to restate my concern that there be some language in the license agreement to regulate truck traffic that may go through Fairhaven to the depot area.
Point noted. All right, and Cahill. Thank you,
So,
Terrence.
so Mark, in that regard, it's just an extension of the current agreement, which I think includes that language.
I understand that, but I just wanted to get that on the record.
Okay.
I see Rob has his hand up. Is that new, Rob?
Yes, it is. It's slightly off agenda topic, but I guess since it's connected, perhaps I just thought I'd ask a question. And that's whether 41 North considered the RFP for freight from New Bedford to Martha's Vineyard, and what their reasons for not participating might have been, since we have the owner there. I realize it's off topic, and if you think it's inappropriate, I understand, but I figured I'd take advantage of the moment.
You know, if he's still around, I'd like to hear that as well.
I think I think it's not on the topic. It's not on the agenda, gentlemen, so I appreciate the need for it, but
It's not the chair, so it could be brought up as all to do.
all right, we'll do that one.
So,
You know, just, I think it would be helpful if John is still here, we could get a 5-minute overview. If he's willing to talk to it.
Jonah, would you like to comment, or do you want us to relay what previously had been relayed to us?
It's gonna stand up.
Go ahead, Jonah.
Thank you, John. So we did review the RFP. We gave it pretty thorough consideration. The concerns that we saw with the RFP really boiled down to economic viability of it. We had a concern that if there wasn't sufficient traffic, the way the RFP was written, we were still obligated to run. And quite frankly, the economics of that just don't work. So, and there were requirements in there to carry the passengers as a barge operator. That becomes an issue because a barge, in order to carry passengers, has to become an inspected vessel. You get into a whole different set of regulations with the Coast Guard, as a steamship knows. So it was a combination of those factors that ultimately drove us away from it. Our review was thorough though, and the consideration was thorough because we were hoping that maybe there was an opportunity there to expand on what we're currently offering to Nantucket. But unfortunately, it just didn't work as structured.
Yeah. Rob, do you have questions of Jonah?
Yeah, I guess the question would be, is there a structure you could envision that meets the sort of spirit of the goal that might be economical?
I think the only real without some sort of subsistence from support, economic support from unrelated third parties would be a on-demand service. And I'm not certain that there's the demand there to run an on-demand service, quite honestly. You still get into a situation where as the operator, there's certain fixed costs that you're going to incur to make the transit. And it's tough to cover those fixed costs without a steady revenue stream from passengers or customers on the service. And the problem becomes that that fixed cost is large enough to the point where even if you had a steady group of customers on board, the overall cost per customer will exceed what it would cost to run on the steamship. So you have, from the customer's standpoint, they look at it and say, well, if I could run on the steamship for X versus it's going to cost me Y to run on a barge service out of New Bedford.
Yeah,
it's the incentive for me as a customer. And it's also, it's a longer transit from New Bedford, so their equipment is now tied up for longer. It's possible that something over time could develop on an on-demand basis, but I don't see it being able to come in and immediately go from zero to a full service.
Rob or anyone else have more questions for Jonathan?
No, I just appreciate, thanks for that feedback and thanks for allowing me to put you on the spot, which I hope wasn't awkward, but that was helpful.
Yeah, Jonah, thank you very much. That was helpful.
And thank you,
Thank you,
Mr. Chair,
Tom.
for going off topic a little bit.
Yep, yep. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
We're moving on to treasurer's report, Bob.
President's report, yep.
Morning, Mark.
Morning, everyone. I believe we have the business summary up first. The business summary for the month of August, passengers on the Vineyard route were up 6.4%, on the Nantucket 11.3%. Regular passengers down while the high-speed passengers were up. And both routes combined were up 7.4% or just under 30,000 passengers, bringing the year-to-date total up 7.1% versus the previous year, or just under 131,000 passengers. Here's a monthly comparison, visual comparison by month, comparing last year and this year. Okay, for passenger vehicles, i.e. vehicles under 20 feet, the Vineyard route was down about 2,800 cars, 4.5%. Nantucket was down 1,150 cars, or 9.6%, and both routes combined during the month were down 5.4%, or just under 4,000 vehicles, bringing the year-to-date total down 2.2%, or just under 8,900 cars in pickup trucks. Here we can see the monthly comparisons. On the Vineyard route, both routes combined are about 12%, or 1,000 freight vehicles, bringing the year-to-date total up just under 4%, or 2,400 cars. And the note in August, compared to last year, there was 10 weekend days last year versus 9 this year, which conversely puts more weekend days. That's why you can see some of the automobiles down more compared to the trucks being up. There's a little bit to do with the timing of the calendars. And here we can see the monthly comparison again. Cars parked, both routes combined, were up 2,473 cars, or 8.8% against last year. Year to date, we're up just under 7%, or 7,589 cars. Here's the cars parked. Trip summary for the month of August. On the Vineyard route, we had 19 trips canceled for mechanical, 0 for weather, and 11 for traffic. On the Nantucket route, we had 6 for mechanical, 0 for weather, bringing the year-to-date total of 104 trips for mechanical, 227 for weather, and 147 for traffic. Financial snapshot. Operating revenue of $19,362,000 was higher than budget by just under $911,000. Operating expenses of $10,658,000 was higher than budget by $365,000. Adding in the other income and the other deductions, we have a net operating income of $9,673,000, which is higher than budget by $1,404,000. That brings the year-to-date net operating income of $16,023,000, which is higher than budget by $3,355,000. And some of that is timing issues where, for example, we're finishing up the roof in Hyannis, which was a budgetary item earlier in the year, as well as some of the container expenses that are about a month late. Okay. Operating revenue. Again, you can see the automobile traffic revenue was down for the month. All other categories were up. Year-to-date operating revenue is up $2,402,000, or 2.7%. Here's a breakdown showing where the categories of the operating revenue come from, both for the month and for the year. Operating expenses, fuel was up during the month, $77,000, 8.4%. That's even though we are hedged, we still had some quantity differences, as well as the the delivery price differences, as far as the NYMEX versus the delivery cost. Year to date, we're up $514,000 in fuel, or 9.8%. Last, we budgeted $2.34, and we're actually coming in about $2.65 this year. Operating expenses. Okay. Here's a breakdown for the month of August as well as the year to date through August. Quick snapshot of September. Passengers in both routes combined were up 6.1%, or 18,601 passengers. Vehicle traffic on the Nantucket route, we're down 74 vehicles at 0.6%, and the Vineyard route was down just under 1,500 vehicles at 2.5%. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone has about the August financials of traffic.
Rob, go ahead.
Yeah, Mark, thanks a lot. Always good to get that high level summary. I'm just kind of curious to get your sort of big picture perspective. It seems like cars carried down, passengers up. Is this a reflection of people just behaving differently? They don't want to take their cars, or is it?
Yeah,
something
before during COVID, we had a lot of people traveling with their cars, might have been foot traffic, where there's a sense of shelter almost. You can also see in the car traffic that you're seeing an adjustment where the standard fares are coming down and the excursion fares, the quantities up, where it's more normalizing to pre-COVID levels. It's roughly 65% to 35% roughly. And I think it was during COVID, it might have been, it was closer to 70-30. So we're seeing some normalcy there going as well.
Okay, so it's really the comparison against 2021 more than it is some
Yes.
new behavioral thing.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, thanks. Appreciate the report.
Any other questions on that topic? All right, thank you, Mark.
So
Next topic.
operating budget. And since last court council meeting, we proposed this, reviewed the preliminary budget with the board, as well as had two open houses on September 30th and October 2nd, I believe it was, the Friday and Monday, October 3rd, actually. And we had 17 people at the first meeting and 8 at the second meeting that attended. Since the last meeting with the court council, we haven't had any material changes to what we presented. And the changes we do have, I will review as well.
We do appreciate the Port Council's willingness to move this meeting to today, so that way we could get those open houses conducted and evaluate the comments that we received.
Okay. So as a refresher, we're looking at the last 12 months of traffic that we base our revenue stats on. So we're using August 1st, 2021 through July 31st, 2022. Previous last couple of years, we made adjustments on some of these assumptions based on COVID, where, for instance, a couple of years ago, we assumed 90% traffic level, pre-COVID levels. But we're using straight traffic as the driver for the last 12 months. Big driver of the budget on the expense side is the fuel cost. We're expecting an increase of about 5.6 million or 69%. We're budgeting $3.93 a gallon, versus last year for the year, we're at $2.37 a gallon. Inflation, everyone sees it. We're in the last 12 months through July, it's up 8.5%. Outside of that, we're not expecting any, didn't make any material changes to the budget outside of the maintenance requests. We have some new assets coming on the books for depreciation, and as well as some interest associated with the bonding to new vessels. Okay, operating revenues based on the current traffic levels, expecting 129,661,000. Operating expenses, 132,674,000. Other income of 8.7 million, other expenses of 4.6 million. Put this all together for net income from operations of 1,085,000. To put this in perspective, how this compares, the 2022 approved operating budget had a net income of $9.1 million. So looking at the expenses, operations of terminals, we're expecting an increase over last year's budget of about $900,000. We're seeing an increase as everyone is on our utility costs. It's one of the drivers on that expenses. General expense, we're looking at additional increases in healthcare, pension, welfare, as well as adding the chief operating officer that wasn't in last year's budget. Appreciation, new assets we're adding on the books that account for the increase of the 1.5 million. We have 7 electric buses that'll be on the books all for the full year next year. 2 shuttle vans, a new website, and the newly named Aquinnah and Monomoy will be on the books for part of the year next year. Maintenance expense, we'll go over in the next slide. And the operation of vessels, as we just mentioned, the big drivers of that 6.9 million is 5.6 million in fuel expenses. So on the left, we can see the vessels that are going in for dry dock next year, and we're expecting about 4.8 million in dry docking on these vessels. We'll also have about $4 million in terminal expenses for the terminal Dolphins dock repairs. Examples of projects we're doing next year: a new HVAC system at the Indian Haven terminal, repairs to the concrete decking near the slips. Oak Bluffs, we have the annual pier work being done there. Hyannis, we have siding being done at the terminal, with the passenger shelter area for the high speed at the Nantucket terminal, as well as the 3 island terminals. We're doing some slip work and some bollard installations there as well.
Mark, can I stop you for a second?
Absolutely.
You mentioned Vineyard Haven terminal work. Where is that? That's up to part of the 4 million?
Yep. So there's 2 things they're doing. One is they're adding some new bollards and some other ways to tying up the vessels at all the island terminals, as well as they're doing some of the piling and footings at the area near the slips, as well as near where the passenger areas are.
Okay. When is that work scheduled to be done?
I believe 4th quarter next year.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, operating revenue, passenger revenue, expecting to increase about 8.1%. That's both on the quantity as well as the mix of the passengers, where during the business summary, we saw on the Nantucket route, for example, the fast ferry passengers are up while the conventional passengers are down. Automobile revenue, seeing it down, both that's on the quantity as well as the mix of the vehicles. So we can see the higher percentage of the standard fare as well compared to the excursion fare, and then the quantity being down as well. Here's a chart showing the net income by month as well as the aggregate total of net income, which is the blue line. So we can see we lose money in the first 4 months, we make money, and then we lose money. So at the end of the day, that blue line shows us at about $1.1 million. And one of the questions we did have was, is this typical, chart for our operations for net income? And yes, that's typically what happens for the authority. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding the operating budget before we get into the proposed fare adjustments.
Go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry, Rob.
Yeah, Mark, thanks for that. Curious about, and to the extent you can actually say something about the labor component, and you mentioned the 8.5% inflation, and what are you building into this from
Sure.
your expense side on a labor?
Sure. So the on the staff summary, it shows the wages, and I believe we're budgeting about 5.8% increase. Most of the contracts have settled. There's one still outstanding, so we're basing off those contracts. And then as far as labor hours going, we have 748,000 hours, and the only increase in actual hours is 4,000, and that 2,000 of those is for the COO. And we have some transitionary people retiring and some shadowing and transitioning in. But for the most part, the hours are flat for the year. There's some things in the budget from last year that weren't included or budgeted too low, that when you're looking at budget to budget, that's where some of the increases from, where we, instead of what actually signed in the contract, we budgeted a lower number, so that's compounding over 2 years.
You're muted, Rob. Rob, you're muted.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, you answered the question right at the beginning with the 5.8% number as you're sort of, I guess, all in.
But to be clear, it's not a 5% increase it's aggregate wages.
I get you. Yeah,
Right.
that's what I meant by all in. Yep, thanks.
Yep. All right, let's go on.
Okay, proposed, okay, so we need a requesting a vote from the Port Council on the proposed budget before we go into the fare adjustments, please.
Can I get a motion from Port Council?
So moved.
Second,
Now, was that a second?
yes, sir.
All right. Roll call vote. We'll start with Annette.
Aye.
All right, Joe,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Bud,
Aye.
and Cahill, aye.
Rob, I,
Oh,
how quickly you forget.
that's this Hollywood Squares thing that gets you, I ought to keep an order to it.
I love that. Hollywood Squares.
Yes.
Who's Paul Lind and who's Charlie Weaver?
You're dating yourself.
Yeah, really.
Thank you for that. So proposed fare adjustment for 2023. So why are fare adjustments needed? Big thing is the fuel costs, and I have a couple slides to go over this. We're expecting a $5.6 million increase. I looked at the fuel prices this morning on the CME, and it's pretty close to within a penny or two in the first quarter what we had budgeted for. So as far as we're seeing some volatility in the market, but right now we're pretty on track to what the current market conditions are. We also have maintenance expenses that we're looking at up to 18 months in advance of putting these costs in. And then as a reminder, for the 2022 operating budget, there was no fare adjustment for the steamship authority. So these are the same rates that were in place in 2021. Here's some examples of other ferry fuel operators who've had to implement fuel surcharges during 2022, which we, fortunately, because of our hedge program, haven't had to. But in 2023, we will have to make adjustments because of the fuel costs. So here we can see rates anywhere from 5% up to as high as 18% based on fuel adjustments for this year. So as we went over in a previous Port Council meeting, we have a hedge program. So here the yellow bars indicate what our delivered fuel cost price was. The green bars are what our 2022 fuel hedge strike prices were. And the light blue is the hedge prices for next year, 2023. So you can see our strike prices for next year are pretty close on most months to what we're paying this year. This year through our hedge program, we were able to receive $3.6 million back in proceeds from the program. So even though we had to pay more for the delivery prices, we got money back because this program, which really saved us about $3.6 million in expenses this year. For the short answer. Here's a quick monthly comparison of the fuel prices by month for the budget for 2022, 2023, and then you can see the increase per gallon as well as the dollar amount, how it's going to impact the budget. So we're looking for about a $9 million net income. We have currently under the vote just approved by the Port Council budget, net income of just under 1.1 million. Looking at additional revenue of about 7.8 million, 4.4 million from the Vineyard side, 3.4 million from the Nantucket route, and that correlates to the amount of revenue they're bringing in as well, and then net income per route. So the bottom line, looking for passenger fare adjustments that'll total about 1.7 million. Excursion fares for both, and this is both islands combined. Excursion rates about 245,000. Standard fare vehicles just under 2.9 million. The freight bill vehicles 2,360,000. Parking, and these are for the year-round parking permits and for daily fee parking from May 15th, October 14th, 435,000. And then increasing the barge rate from $7 a ton to $8 a ton, which would increase 145,000. One thing that was brought up at both meetings was the necessity of increasing the excursion rates. You know, that was brought up at both meetings. And as we'll see in the next couple slides, what our original recommendation was, and at the Port Council, they asked us to bring it down, is that we only included the fare adjustment on the excursion for the passengers. We didn't recommend any adjustments on the vehicle side. And these recommendations, based on last month's recommendation, is just for the adults for each route. Next slide. So the passenger fares, 50 cents for a ticket, for an adult ticket, and seniors and children would go up 25 cents correspondingly. The 10 ride would go up $4, and the 46 ride would go up $9. That would generate about 815,000. The adult ticket, that's about a 5.6% increase. Excursion rates, as we just mentioned, going up $1 each way, or $2 for a round trip ticket. That only reflects on the 2 adults that are included in that excursion ticket, as you can see, above the 50 cents. That would account for $185,000, and that's about a 1.9% increase during the summer season and 2.7% in the off season. Standard fare vehicles during the course of the year, adjusting it from $3 and $5 depending on the season. And during the summer season on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, going up $10 per each leg. That would generate just under $2 million. The freight, 8% across the board. That's $1 million. And then the parking, as we mentioned before, that would generate about $350,000. On the Nantucket route, similar methodology where their passengers would basically double the Vineyard side. They would go up $1 on the conventional, $3 on the high speeds. That equates to about 5.3% on the conventional ferry. That's $900,000. Again, the excursion rate would only be reflective of the 2 adults that are included in the ticket. That would generate about $60,000, and that's a 2.2% increase in the off season and a 1.6% increase in the summer. Standard fare vehicles, $9 to $14 during the course of the season. And then during the summer with Friday, Saturday, Sunday, an increase of $20. That would generate $910,000. Same on the Vineyard with an 8% adjustment for freight. That's $1.3 million. The barge fees from $7 to $8 a ton, and then the parking the same exact on the Vineyard side. Again, here's a breakdown showing what the current distribution of space compared to the generation of revenue for each run. The Nantucket side is in red, the Vineyard side is in blue, where we can see the excursion fare on the far left, that their revenue is 9.1 and 5.2 effectively for the Vineyard and Nantucket route, while the space usage is 25.9 and 13.5. Freight on the far right generally pays for itself, pretty close as the percentages go, and then you can see the standard fare vehicles generating more revenue in correspondence to the space they use. All in all, of all the proposed rate adjustments, you can see the largest amounts falling on the standard fare vehicles at 37%, freight at 30%, passengers at 22%, and the excursion fares at only 3%. Here's the net income chart showing with the fare adjustment what it would be like, similar pattern. But for the months of January through April, November, December, those 6 months, we have a net operating loss of 21 million. But from May to October, we'd have a net operating income of about 30 million, which would put us at 9 million at the end of the year. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone has.
Go ahead, Rob.
Question, the $9 million bogey. What's the criteria for that number?
The 9 million is what we've used roughly in the past, and through that generates enough money to go into the through the cascading of funds to the special purpose funds.
So when you say used in the past, 9 million as a percentage of the total revenue, or 9 million as a
It's been roughly in that number. Obviously, the higher revenue side, that percentage is going to be lower. But looking at what the cash flow through the cascading funds for for instance, the replacement fund, the sinking fund, which is for the bond purposes to make sure we have generated enough cash for those projects as well.
Okay, you mentioned that the lion's share of the issue is fuel, which is totally understandable, and that the balance is spread amongst a bunch of things. You also mentioned as a category in that one slide, maintenance expenses. I'm curious about the experience you've had lately, let's say over the last 12 to 18 months with, the increase in maintenance costs, particularly in the shipyard activities. Has that been observable and measurable? Is it clear that it costs more to go in and do the same amount of work in the yard that it did a year and a half ago?
Yeah, we're seeing that, and one thing we are doing this year is, as we saw during the business summary, a little bit ahead of budget, we're accelerating maintenance expenses from 2023 into 2022 to lower the impacts on the 2023 budget. So items that we know, for instance, whether it's an engine part or a turbo, whatever it may be, getting those orders is also not only it's a cost issue, but also as a lead time for supply chain to get the items here, when the boat goes into the shipyard, we don't have any delays because we don't have those products as well.
Okay.
So Rob, back to your original question, though, I think the 9 million, typically, when we've been presenting budgets in the past, we've been looking for, a 6 to 8, 9% factor there to account for. These budgets are prepared starting back in May and June of this year for next year. So we're looking at, 18 months projections in terms of the cost of what a dry dock expense is going to be, what a terminal repair is going to be. On the operations side, we have a much better handle on it. We know what the labor costs are going to be by and large. We know we have the fuel hedge program for that aspect of it. So it really ends up being a lot of the wild card, so to speak, end up being some of these maintenance costs, and doing them so far out in advance. We always like to propose a budget that has that factor in it as a safety net. And as we proceed through the year, we see that that's going to be holding. We look to accelerate items from the next year's budget into the current year.
So last year we accelerated. And last year we did the same thing where we accelerated engine parts and other maintenance projects into 2021 to help alleviate the 2022 budget.
Thanks. One last question, and that's about the relative increase, standard fare vehicles versus anything else. And I think the question would be the larger than 20 foot, and that being sort of the second most carrier of the increase. What's your thinking there?
That's something that gets passed along to everyone. Is looking at basically this tying pretty close to inflation, and I know that's something we're seeing. We're on the receiving end of some of these fuel surcharges from our shippers as well. So just like everyone else, we have the fuel costs, and that's something that hits everyone else, and it's pretty standard right now.
I lied. One more question. In the aggregate, what would you say the increase is? I know it's clear that 8% on the larger than 20. What's in the aggregate, the increase of the fares in terms of a percentage? Because everybody has a sense of 8.5% or so of inflation right now. How does this increase sort of measure up against that 8.5%?
Yeah, so it's 7.8 million on 100 and the original budget. Give me 1 second. Do some quick math. On the original operating revenue of 129,000, so it's under 129 million, 130 million, and we're asking for roughly 8. So you're probably 6% off the top of my head. You're 8 million on 130 million.
Okay, that's helpful. I think people will understand that. Appreciate.
And of that 8 million, 5.6 is for fuel.
Yep. Okay, thanks.
Go
Good
ahead,
job on that.
Yeah, I have a quick question. Does this, but correct me if I'm wrong, do the 2 new vessels come online in the fiscal 23?
Yes, they do, and we have the, in their depreciation budgeted for part of the year for those vessels coming online as well as the corresponding debt expense.
So all the expenses of bringing them on and mothballing two others are included in this budget.
The part of these boats will be capitalized, and that's where the depreciation will hit the books. And then we're looking at, when the, mothball and the other vessels, when we would, do the impairment test, whether it's 2022 or 2023.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Mark, nice job, and thank you for laying it out the way you did. Just curious, I was not unable to attend the public hearings. Any comments that you could share what their concerns were?
Sure, absolutely. So for the budget side, the comments we had were about, as I mentioned during the presentation, about the net income graph. Is that normal for a typical steamship year? And yes, it is. The other one was asking about the advertising budget, how much it was, is it necessary? And what's the dollar amount in the increase? I think we're up like $35,000 versus last year's budget. Off the top of my head, we're about $1,380,000. And that's for both routes combined. And our advertising budget is targeted at walk-on foot traffic. It's not for vehicles. And if people remember during COVID, where we saw the vehicles sold still, but where we're really hurting is the passenger traffic, the foot traffic. We still haven't gotten back to pre-COVID levels yet.
Yeah.
So that's where the target of the advertising, that really makes a significant difference on our bottom line, and also help with the other fares as well, helping them out. And then I'm trying to think, and then we had, those are the main topics on the budget side. And then on the revenue side, as far as the fare adjustments go, big thing was the excursion fares. You know, do they have to go up at all? Can they be offset with reducing the advertising budget or putting it onto the standard fare vehicles? Those were the comments that were made, as well as looking at operational efficiencies of the ability to get space for the island residents. And the thing that we're looking for value-added services is that we're looking at adjusting the preferred spaces, the allocations in the mornings out of the vineyard and the afternoon from Woods Hole. We add more space during the morning, as well as adding in a 30-day preferred space. Where people know they need to travel, but 7 days is too late where they have to make that commitment, whether it's a wedding, whether it's a school event, whatever it may be, give another layer of planning for the island residents.
So another item too that we're looking at is we presented earlier about the Head Start program and a limit of 5 Head Start reservations. So we're just verifying that we'll be able to do it, but to increase that, to make it to provide the island residents up to 10 Head Start reservations instead of 5. The first 5 would have the same rules. The second 5 would be on the basis that they'd have to be in the name of the account and non-transferable. So we would hope that we'll get that information in time for the board meeting, but that's one thing we're looking to do. To try to, those high demand periods in the summertime, give the islanders an additional opportunity to be able to book some space if they know they have a wedding or, travel plans in the summertime.
So if we can get those changes through, that would happen when, that we would make those decisions, not when it would happen, but want to make those decisions in November, December?
Yeah, we should hopefully be able to have all that information together for the November meetings. That'll be in time. There'll be a sufficient amount of time for next year's reservations.
Okay. Any other questions from the council? Mark, nice job. Thank you for that. Do we need a vote now today on this also, Bob? All right. Can I get a motion from somebody?
So moved.
There's that, that sigh.
Audible sigh, yeah. Yeah, I'll second the motion from Joe.
All right, we got a first and a second. All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, how about a roll call vote? We'll start with Rob this time, so.
Menear, aye.
All right, Bud?
Aye.
All right, Nat?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
And Mark?
Aye.
All right, Cahill, aye. Thank you again, Mark.
And I got one last thing. This is for the 2022-2023 transportation agreement for the MV Regional High School District. To be real
Yep.
quick. This is for the period of July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023. Last year, they paid $33,000 based on usage history. Looking at the average of 3 years, it moves to $35,000 per year. I spoke with Mark Friedman from the school district who worked on it. They're okay. I gave a copy of the draft transportation agreement on the back as well in the staff summary. So I'm looking for approval to change to renew the agreement for 2022-23 year from $33,000 to $35,000.
I get a motion.
So moved.
A second.
Second.
Discussion. All right, seeing none, we'll start with Mark this time.
Aye.
All right, Nat, Joe,
Aye.
Bud,
Aye.
and Rob.
Aye.
All right, Cahill, aye. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.
We have old new business, Bob?
All right, so under, at last month's board meeting, we presented a early draft of a letter that we're seeking authorization to send relative to the National Oceanographic and Administration, Atmosphere Administration proposed rulings regarding the North Atlantic right whale seasonal speed zones. So we continue to work on that letter, and Terrence is probably going to be coming up as well here. But basically, the proposal from NOAA is that there's these seasonal speed zones to protect the right whale, which in this case extend into Vineyard Sound and Nantucket Sound. And during the period of November 1st to May 31st, vessels that are 35 feet or longer will be required to limit their speed to 10 knots during that time period. And the impact of that on our services on the Nantucket route, we would only be able to make 2 round trips a day with our traditional ferries. The high-speed ferry, it would be not, wouldn't be a good use of that vessel to be only going 10 knots. On the Vineyard route, it'll be close, but we probably will end up losing 1 out of the 7 trips once we sort it all out. But it's more probable than not that we'll end up having to go to a 6 round trips a day instead of 7 round trips on the Vineyard run because of that restriction. So obviously on the Nantucket run, that means that a third of our abilities to be able to carry over the food, the fuel, the medicines, the staples of life to the island would be impacted. We don't have enough crews to be able to schedule additional crews to be transporting to get that 3rd trip in, or do we have a place to put another vessel to run an additional vessel? So it's going to have a huge impact on the Nantucket route. It will have an impact on the Vineyard route as well. If we have to go down to 6 round trips a day on the Vineyard route, obviously 1/7 of the trips. On the Nantucket route, this restrictions could be devastating to the private carriers, in particular at the High Line, because during that time period, the winter time they're running, we don't run our high speed for 3 of those months. The other months we do run. So without that service, we'd end up having a catch-22 situation where we'd want to be looking at if it's passenger traffic and which vessels we'd want to be deploying on the Nantucket run in order to carry the passenger mix. And that could impact the decision as to what freight is being able to be carried on the freight decks as well. So you start going down a rabbit hole on this one. Staff has been looking at this, and none of us are against protecting the right whale. But the issue has been that since the early 90s, when we first started high-speed service, the Steamship Authority has had over 500,000 trips back and forth on the Sound, and not once have we spotted a right whale been spotted. We have spotted some minke whale. We spotted humpback whales. Just yesterday on the Nantucket run, there was a sighting of a whale. The crews were initially not able to make the determination as to what the whale was. Our crews did slow down in the area of the whale until later on a determination was made that it was a humpback whale because it had a dorsal fin. The fact is that in all of us, in our marine operations has indicated that in the years that they've been, licensed deck officers, that there have been no sightings. We just don't see a need for the Nantucket and Vineyard Sound to be included in these zones. In addition, there's the dynamic zones in the other parts of the year in which if there is a sighting of northern right whale, that they put this zone around, and it's a mandatory speed restriction, and it goes for, is it 12 days or 14 days? 14 days. It extends out for 14 days until the last sight from the last sighting. These zones that they're proposing are larger than the current zones. The current zones could be that, which are not mandatory, they're advisory. The current zones, if there's a sighting south of Nantucket, for instance, the current zones could extend into Nantucket Sound. The new proposed zones would clearly extend into Nantucket Sound, and depending upon how close they are to Nantucket, could actually extend all the way up to Hyannis. So we're concerned about that because there's a land area, there's a land mass in between. So the proposal, what we're looking at here is to request that, much like Long Island Sound, Buzzards Bay, and Narragansett Bay have all been excluded from these zones. That similarly, Vineyard Sound and Nantucket Sound be excluded. And of course, if there is a sighting, within the Sound, we would obviously adhere to any restrictions that would take place. But based on the experience that our crews have seen, this isn't something that has been taking place in the Sounds. So we're prepared to do that. I know Highline and I think Sea Streak, Island Queen are all aware of this issue. So whether they similarly will be sending a request, not quite certain, but it's important enough. I think the impact on our situation is different than a lot of other of the ferry operators' issues. This will have a direct impact on the quality of life on the islands. It'll be pushing the Nantucket farther out to sea, so to speak, because with only being able to go 10 knots, that trip's going to end up being 2.5 to 2 hours and 45 minutes long. And I know that some people say, well, people will just be flying more often. Well, the issue becomes is that this past summer and the summer before, the issue has been being able to supply enough aviation fuel to the airport over on Nantucket in order to run a run service. This past summer, they had a restriction on the issuance of aviation fuel on the island, so there's not enough storage capacity for them, so. It really, as I said, it's not going down a rabbit hole on this one. And our experience has been that it hasn't been occurring. As I said, I pointed out just yesterday, there was a sighting. Our crews took immediate action to make sure that they stayed clear of the animals. And we reported it to the authorities, so that way, they could investigate to make sure, what type of a whale it was.
Bob, in our 50+ years of history, have you ever had an incident?
None that we're aware of. We have a poor captain with 45+ years of service, and he's not aware of any. We've talked to other captains in our fleet, and to a man, none of them have ever indicated that there's been any right whale sightings. So.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
please.
Yep.
Yes, Bob, thank you for that. I'll go way further than you as far as the flying. Those days are over. I mean, you talk about what it was like with Cessnas in the 80s and the stickers on the people's cars that said, no one liked airplane noise, and then 5 minutes later, planes were gone, the fast boats were here, and that was the end. Nantucket, the fast ferry to Nantucket is not first class. It's all class. It's everybody from stem to stern of every imaginable walk of life, let alone the medical stuff in the Cape that people don't even realize is happening every single day. Okay, people go over for treatment. They go on the High Line, come back on the steamship, or go over on the steamship and come back on the High Line. It's unconscionable that this could even be discussed in any type of public forum without full understanding as to what they're actually saying. This is like going back to the Constellation going across the Atlantic Ocean. Okay, that's how insane this is. So I just want, the Vineyard route is nothing compared to us as far as this particular issue. We would go back to Woods Hole with the slow boats and no fast boat service ever in the winter or in the 6 months or whatever that time frame is. Question, Bob, why isn't there a study have to be done, like for windmills and cables and anything else that would ever be put in place or whatever? Why is it like fishing studies, like, you know what I mean? Like impact analysis or some kind of environmental something or other. I just don't understand how this federal government can just say, yep, this is what we're doing, and the end of it. Is that?
Yeah, I'm not certain. I think it may have to do with the critical nature of the right whale population, that there's only so many breeding females left.
Yeah.
Aware of, and obviously anything over, I think it's like 0.7 fatalities a year ends up being a death knell to the population itself. So
Yeah.
Bob, what do you need from us today?
well, at this point, we're still working on a draft of the letter. Just want to let the Port Council know. We'll be getting that draft together. We'll be circulating amongst the Port Council and the board later, so that way we need to make sure that we get it filed. Public comment is open until end of the month. So as I said, it's remains a work in progress. As we bring one item up, we realize this is another item that we want to include in it, and at this point, the board has authorized us to go ahead and, prepare a letter to be sent. But prior to it being sent, we will circulated amongst the Port Council and board for review.
All right, good. Anyone else want to talk about this topic? Mark,
Uh,
you have?
yes. Yeah, in terms of the letter that's being sent, I think it would be very helpful to emphasize what you're doing currently under your operating procedures when you do sight a whale, such that if it's, you slow down the ship, so that, you know, possible hitting the whale would be limited. Also, I think emphasizing the fact that in the 50 years of the operation of the Steamship Authority, there's never been any type of collision with a whale. You know, my experience with these regulatory agencies is obviously they are concerned about the economic impacts on the communities, but their major role is protection of the endangered species. So the point that you could emphasize that it hasn't been a problem with Steamship Authority, and you have policies and procedures in place in case there is a possibility of interaction, I think should be at the forefront of any letter that you send. I'd also be curious as to whether there's any technology that the Steamship Authority can acquire, some type of sonar system that would allow for some type of sighting of the whales when they're underwater, that may be in close proximity. Again, I think that would go a long way towards impacting how the regulators look at the situation.
All good points. Thanks, Mark. Rob.
Yeah, picking up on Nat's point and Mark's point, it would seem like there should be some science that would back up the need for this or the lack of need for it. And so that would be one thing that could be suggested. You know, I don't know to what extent NOAA's edict is based in science or just what, or if the steamship wanted to, you know, investigate that to prove that the science doesn't support the requirement. That would be one suggestion to think about. The second goes to Mark's point about is there some accommodation that we might consider? I mean, the traditional method is an observer, but there is technology that's been developed using thermal imaging cameras, mast mounted, that are used to identify, to see whales in advance. They automatically provide an alarm, et cetera, et cetera. So there are systems that are, you know, it's new technology, so it's not commercial off the shelf yet, but it's close to being. So there are some techniques that are out there that, you know, could be a consideration also.
All right. Thank you, Rob. Anything else on this topic? Bob, Terry?
Just wanted to make the Port Council aware of the.
All right. Good. All right. Are we moving on to public comment?
What about other business, new business? I thought this was sort of under that,
Yeah.
or no?
Any other new business, old business?
Well, got a couple things to discuss.
Yes, go ahead.
So, Bob, Mark, Allison, everyone that's listening. So the summer driver service fee increase that we have in the summer kind of went past the 15th of September, which I didn't even know it went that far to begin with, but okay. And it went to the 30th. If we could make that adjustment for next year, somehow in the computer to make it stop the same time the excursion changes on the 15th of September.
So they have the driver services for the automobiles coincide with the excursion rate as opposed to the standard fare rates.
That summer price that we have, that whatever we're calling that summer price. Yes. The next thing is next year's fall schedule, when we switch over to, this is the first year, we're on it right now, final week. It's the first year of Triple Crew Gay Head in this piece of the schedule. And we kind of I guess I should have picked up on this. I can't believe I missed it. So we gotta make sure we put hazmat for 5:30, 1:30 on Saturdays during the schedule if the freight boat is running on the weekends. We didn't have it before because we didn't have the freight boat on the weekends. We had the Woods Hole and the Eagle, and the freight boat was 2 single crews 5 days a week until this year. So we gotta fix that for next year, even though we've already approved it. That's an easy solution before the bulks go out for that. The next thing is the something that I kind of want to talk about a little bit is this. I'm going to call it the personal item transportation. Something happened to someone the other day here that it's a frequent issue when someone goes on the boat, forgets their keys to their car, or forgets their medication, or forgets their passport, or something small. And the next boat could be the Highline, it could be the steamship, depends on what time they go over there. And we don't have a policy that actually allows somebody at the terminal that gets the phone call from the person that's in a complete panic, standing in the parking lot at Yarmouth Road or wherever they are. We don't have a policy that actually says that we can help them. We have a policy that says that's freight somehow. And I don't consider that freight.
Yeah, no, and I
Definitely need to do something with that.
Bob, do you want to say something?
Well, if it's, you know, something of the small set of keys or things like that, I know, you know, from being in the terminals that it does occur. I don't know what happened yesterday, and we can talk about that afterwards, but I think in the absence of it just being a package, you know, any package that would come over, that would be left behind or whatever, that would be subject to a search prior to being accepted for transit, because no unintended materials. But other than that, I think you know, we can. I guess we could look to see whether it's a policy or not, or whether it's more common sense that, you know, we're here for the islanders, and if the set of keys need to get back to the island, then the set of keys need to go.
If we could just, you know, with all of our wonderful accomplishments, and we do such a good job with so many things that no one talks about anymore. We got that transportation ambulance thing solved. We got the funeral parlor thing solved. We have a lot of things we do really well, and then these tiny little things happen. The phone rings. It's scary how it can be so like incredible that can happen to someone that's just like completely out of their mind, and we can accomplish it so easily. So we can call it the yes list or something. The word yes can be used at some point with some of these things. So that would be great. I really appreciate it. The next thing is concessions, Bob, on the Nantucket route. I have some thoughts. I know how hard it is to fix. I know what the problems are. I understand the housing and it's gone and all that. I'm just asking, just giving ideas. What if there a way that Centerplate could be contracted through, because I don't want to make more procurement issues. That's ridiculous. That's the last thing we should be doing. Is there a way that Centerplate could be allowed to look for a vendor on Nantucket that can provide food, etc., in the morning for the Eagle, and somehow on the night Eagle coming back at 8 has nothing for the Eagle's Nest? I don't know what the answer is. We have food trucks everywhere over here now. We have vendors literally 1,000 feet from the boat, and you can't get a coffee on the boat. You know, I don't know what the answer is. It's definitely a work in progress. I know you guys are working on this, but it's pretty difficult. If this was going on the Vineyard route, you'd be hearing about it. I can tell you that. And we got the longest route. So that's something. And then the final thing for today, the other things I'm not gonna bring up that I've already talked to you about. Something that I think we should be looking at as maybe a subcommittee or some sort of agenda item is a vessel mix discussion. With us, with everyone. I don't know how that can happen, whether it be a separate meeting or something like that. We're doing a lot right now. We've got the new boats, but we have other boats that are in flux, that are gonna have decisions have to get made. And the Vineyard is as important in this discussion as Nantucket, because some of them are mixed between islands and some of them are special boats near and dear to different ports. Okay, well, the Vineyard and Nantucket. So we did this with the Woods Hole when we were deciding what we were going to build back in 2014, 2015, and I think we need to talk about like what are we doing with X boat, with Y boat, with Z, and not have it be like just on an agenda for a meeting, but more of like a private sort of discussion so that we really know what we're up to. So that is my last thing for today. Thank you very much, Bob and staff.
All right. Thank you, Nat. Bob, you have any other old or new business?
None on our part.
All right, gentlemen, anyone else on the Port Council? Seeing none, we're ready for public comment. Rich,
Hi, good morning.
good morning.
Yeah, I was wondering if you folks could speak to what size vessels are covered under this proposal from NOAA for the right whales, and also specific to the traditional ferries that run on the Vineyard route, what impacts does right now it could potentially have? Thank you.
Okay, so the current restrictions are vessels that are 65 feet or larger. And the zones that they put up are advisory, more so than mandatory. The zones that they're proposing are 35 feet and above. So that would, even at 65 feet, all of our vessels are required to do it, but it's 35 feet and above. And I believe the basis of that is that most vessels 35 feet or above have a AIS system on board, because part of it is going to be, they're going to be using that system to monitor and to potentially fine violators during that time period. So, and I'm sorry, what was your second question?
What impacts do you anticipate if this goes through? Will it have on traditional ferry traffic in Vineyard Sound to the Vineyard?
Yeah, so
Earlier.
yeah, we're going to be we're continuing to look at it. The sense is that during those busy times of the year with vessel traffic and the like, that we probably will have to adjust our schedule to make it a 6 round trips per day instead of 7 round trips per day. Being able to, the time at the dock is critical in terms of loading and offloading both vehicles and passengers. We would have to be, right at the limits of the 10 knots in order to be even close to making schedules. So we would anticipate that we would probably end up losing one out of every 7 round trips for those vessels that have triple crew. Alternatively would be to bring another crew in, but it's a challenging industry right now to be getting mariners to go into the industry. So I wouldn't anticipate that would be a viable option.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Rich. Seeing no other, oh, we have a comment from the Vineyard Gazette.
Good morning, and I'm sorry I was late to your meeting. It's Louisa. I was barking up the wrong meeting ID for about a half an hour until Sean straightened me out because I wasn't opening my email. So I may have missed it. Was there an update on the chief operating officer? I understand there might be candidates and the process is underway.
That, hi Louise, it's John Cahill. That wasn't part of our agenda, nor was it discussed.
Can I still ask about it?
Yeah, so we've had some outreach already to the candidates that were there, and we'll be, I believe later this week, we have some scheduled interviews, so.
Well, thank you.
All right. Anyone want to make a motion to adjourn?
So,
All
Second,
right, roll call vote, Rob.
Aye.
All right, Bud,
Aye.
Matt,
aye.
Joe,
aye.
Mark,
Aye.
and Cahill, aye. Thank you, everybody.
Have a nice day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.